Hello Billy, back at it again with another PC of the week, and today we look at a computer where all the parts are kind of mainstream and everybody knows about it. So hopefully you enjoyed this week's episode, and we're going to get straight into it. What's up everybody with PC of the week, and how is everyone doing? Like I said in the intro, we look at a PC that is kind of mainstream where all these parts are like everybody knows about it, but you know, it's pretty simple. So here we go, and I'm gonna start with the, hopefully by this time you know all what goes in a computer and you know like everything in it. So if you just joined us, this is a series where every week I make a PC of the week where it's a part list and I explain every single part, and hopefully you guys can get some information from it. Maybe you can build this yourself. So anyways, this is a $1,200 PC. Around that, 1,000, is this it? Yeah, $1,200, and I have a budget version of like the same computer, but we will talk about that in a little bit. So you're spending 1,200. This computer is so like expensive. It's expensive, but it's definitely gonna like future-proof yourself. It can play like any game. It's just so good, but it's really good. So if you buy this computer, it would definitely be worth it. It will last for years and years. So like as you see, this is the i7 for the, let's just go start with the parts. So CPU, the Intel Core i7 6700K, and obviously this is like, I would say this is the top of the line CPU. Like if you go farther from like if you go above this, like 6800K, those are the in like 6900K, those are the CPUs where like not everyday customers gonna buy this. This is a CPU where maybe some gaming, like some people that game on the computer is gonna buy it. But with the 6800K, it has more cores and threads, and it's not really good for gaming. So those are like really special CPUs that nobody would get. So this is the CPU they get. This is like the most mainstream CPU for like video editing and work streaming, or video editing and I don't know, whatever you want to do on your computer. It's not, I guess an i7, it's still good for gaming, but some people would say an i5 is better, like an i5 i5 7700 or 6th gen or 7th gen i7, so, or i5 for gaming. But I would suggest stick with this because it's better overall. So it's $300, I know that's insane, and there's not much to it. It's just the, like, this literally would destroy anything you throw at it. It's just, you can overclock it. And speaking of overclocking, the reason why I have, moving on to the Corsair H100i, it's a liquid CPU cooler, where I didn't know this at first, but a CPU cooler, like an AIO, what it's called, it's like there's like a water block that goes on the CPU and cools it, and there's like a radiator, and it actually ships to you with the water inside of it or whatever they put in it to cool it down. So there's like no leaks or anything. Like you don't really, it's not like custom water cooling where you can spill water everywhere. So I didn't know that, and I would get one myself if I wanted to, but I don't really do it. So the reason why I got this Corsair is because you can overclock the 6700K and get this to really cool down your computer. So it's really actually awesome, and all it really does is just go on your CPU. You can mount the fans and the radiator on the top of your case, or sometimes the front of your case, and I'll talk about that in a minute with the case when I get to the case. But anyways, so moving on to the motherboard, it's the MSI Z170A gaming blah 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 motherboard, and as you see, this is a overclockable motherboard where it has heat sinks on the like everywhere on the top here, so your CPU won't thermal throttle, which it would slow it down, and you can just overclock on this. And as you see here with the Z, like if you get B or H, it won't overclock that well, so I would suggest not like getting those motherboards, or you can't overclock at all even. So like get the Z170 platform. They're a little more expensive, but it's definitely worth it if you have an AIO, a CPU that can overclock. So you know, just matching these parts are the best value. Like if you get an AIO for your like Pentium, then like that's just completely pointless. Anyways, that's the motherboard, and yeah, you see it's crazy. It's meant for gaming. It's meant for all this stuff. So moving on to RAM, just a simple Corsair Vengeance, which is I would say really good RAM, gaming RAM too. It's 16 gigs, which is enough for gaming. This is why I put it on. And you need DDR4 RAM for Skylake for the 6th gen i7 for the 6th gen Intel processors. So I got the DDR4 so it can fit in the motherboard, and you can have DDR3 in your using with the Skylake processors, but it's like not recommended. It's really weird. I don't know why they don't want you to do that, but it's like around $100 the RAM, and it's just a good value overall. So it's pretty good. It's just RAM, you know. Moving on to, wait, did I forget something? Yes, I did. I forgot to add. Okay, I'll get to that in a minute. So moving on to the hard drive is WD 1TB. Obviously, this is like the most mainstream hard drive everybody knows about. And speaking of, you can get a hard drive, and some people like, oh, get an SSD for the optical drive, or the SSD for the boot, like booting Windows. So yeah, like that's gonna have your cost up a little bit. They cost from like 50 to $100. They're like way faster than hard drives, but with me, I would rather stick to a hard drive because my computer boots in like 2 seconds anyways, like almost literally like 2 seconds. Like it's insane of how fast it boots up. But anyways, moving on to the EVGA GeForce GTX 1070. This is where we're looking here. 1078 gig, which is really good value, and it's just a simple, that's a terrible picture, but it's a simple graphics card where you're gonna crush like every game. It has good cooling on it. It's $380, you know. Throw that card in and you'll be playing every game at that time. It's just nuts. Moving on to the case is the NZXT S340. This is the most mainstream case I've ever heard people talk about, but I'm surprised my case, like the Fantex M3 Pro, I think it is, this is, I swear to God, this case is a lot better than this case, because like the front of it feels so bland, and it's like weird metal. Like it's a weird metal, and it feels like super weird. Like I can't really explain it. But with my case, like the front is more shaped, and it's just so much, it's plastic, and it feels so much better than that like other material on the S340. And as you see, you would mount your motherboard here, and you can mount your radiator to the top. So with the AIO, it cools down, and you know, your CPU can be running really cold in this case. Have fans up the front, have air blow through. But anyways, yeah, like this is like almost the exact case as mine, but the front is just so much better. Like, I'm just gonna be honest with you. Moving on to the power supply. This is, I think, the power supply I actually have. I'm not sure. EVGA Supernova NEX 650 watt. That's gonna be plenty for this computer probably. Fully modular, where you can plug everything in, or you can just plug out whatever you don't need. So it's really good. And yeah, so anyways, there are the parts. I'm trying to get through this a little quicker because it's kind of been going on like 9 minutes, which is crazy because it's fun to talk about this stuff, but you know, I'm just trying to get a shorter video like every week. So there's the parts for it. With the SSD, it's gonna cost you around like $1,300, around that. So yeah, you see this and you're like, can't I get a cheaper version? Well, you kind of can, and you can make it as cheap as you want it, but if you make it too cheap, it's not the same computer. So I kind of got the same computer, and I got, this one's around $1,300 with the SSD, as you see SanDisk SSD Plus, 240 gig. You can even get like 140 gig SSD, not 240 gig SSD, but you know, whatever you want pretty much with computer building. And this is a $1,000 one where you're saving around $200-300. I changed like 2 things. I took out the SSD, which is not, you don't need it. I took out the AIO and put the Cooler Hyper 212 Evo in, because if you don't want to overclock, you don't have to get the AIO, which costs $100, and this costs only $25. So just think about that. You're saving money. Also, I was going to take this motherboard out and put a gigabyte like GA motherboard where you can't overclock it, so it's kind of pointless to have the CPU, but at the same time it's weird. So you're saving, it's probably even cheaper than $1,000. It's probably around $900 to $1,000, okay? And I have the same hard drive, and I took out the 1070 for a 1060, a good 1060. This 1060 can still play everything, it can still crush everything. So why, like, sometimes I look at people's builds and I'm like, why did you get this when you could have something better for cheaper? This is an example. This is kind of an example of something like a 1070. I just don't know. Like a 1060 is really good. It can play all these games at like really good, probably like a million frames, you know. But a 1070 is like for like I would say 4K resolution, and a 1080. I don't know why somebody would buy a 1080, but anyways, I went down to the 1060. That can still play everything. I got the same case and the same power supply. So I literally changed like 3 things of the computer, and I still got, and you save $200 to $300. So it's kind of crazy, guys. This is why PC building is so good today, because you can literally switch out one thing and the price would be completely different. The performance can be completely different. So it's kind of gets confusing, but you just really gotta like do your research and research every part and be like, oh, should I get this? Is it worth the money? If you have like $1 million, if your budget is, some people say my budget is $2,000, what can you build me? I'm putting in everything, 67, like not $2,000, but like 1,500. Obviously, I'm gonna put in, okay, maybe $2,000. I'm obviously gonna put in a 1080, the 6700K, obviously with an AIO, obviously with a Z170 motherboard, because why would you spend, I see people spending money on like cases that are like $200. I'm like, why do you do that when you can get more performance for cheaper? Like, I can see if you just want to spend money, but don't put, if somebody says, can I have a $2,000 PC budget, don't give them a $200 case. Buy like a $60 case with like a $500 GPU, $500 CPU, $500 motherboard, and there you go. There's your computer. You don't need this. You don't need a $200 case. You don't need a $500 motherboard. You don't, or RAM, or you don't need a $500 hard drive. Slack down on the non-important stuff and get, hype up the important stuff, because that's all that matters. I don't know why people. It just makes me so mad. I'm like, somebody's like, give me a budget, and then they're like, oh, okay, here you go, and they give them like. It kind of disappoints me because they don't know, like, they're like, oh, okay, thanks, but they don't know they can get better for the same price. So, it annoys me so much, people. I don't know why you guys do that, but don't do that. Just get the motherboard, CPU, and GPU, and you be good, and RAM. Not even RAM. You can go cheap on RAM, but still. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of PC of the Week. Number 2, I hope you enjoyed it, and take my word for that, because don't buy $500 hard drive and don't buy $1 million power supply. Just don't. Again, whatever. Get good on the cheap stuff, or get good on the important stuff. Go cheap on the non-important stuff. But if you have $5,000 to spend, then go ahead. I don't care. So guys, hopefully you enjoyed this PC of the Week number 2. Stay tuned for next week, and we'll do something else. Building out.
Hey guys, hope you really liked that video. And if you did, please
like, comment, share, and subscribe.
You should also check out our Twitter,
Facebook,
and Tumblr.
See you again soon!